Welcome back to Caffeine Confessionals. My name is Allan, and we are here today to talk about the Challenge 40 Battle of the Eras, Episode 5. I'm joined by my lovely co-host. We have the Southern Luke Muncie,
What's up, guys?
the Vermontian Zoe Trimboli.
Hi, everyone.
Last week, or not last week, 2 weeks ago, before the VMAs, we had an elimination between Derek and Horacio and Nisa and Jenny, where controversy went online. Was it rigged? Who actually won the elimination? Yada, yada, yada. It took over all of Challenge social media. And are we going to talk about it today? No, because we had one of the craziest episodes I've ever seen the Challenge where so much shit went down.
So much shit went down that allegedly we didn't see, which we'll get into as well. But I, again, thought this was a pretty thorough episode that had a lot of what I was looking for.
Checking all the boxes. Yeah, I have felt a lot of feelings watching this episode as well. And I mean, it's just so remarkable how stacked this cast is. And I don't think the entertainment value is going to be going down anytime soon. I'm really excited to talk about this episode.
I've been covering the Challenge since I was 20 years old. I'm 28 now. In all these years, I think this is the weirdest episode I've ever had to cover for a lot of reasons. Because, as you say, we have a stacked cast. We had massive elimination upsets this episode. We had people throwing challenges. We had hookups. We had everything. And yet there's something missing there. And on top of that, we had a massive fight between Laurel and Cara Maria. That's, a 15-year story being told in front of our eyes that people who clicked on this video and podcast are going to want to listen to us talk about. I'm going to put the time clip of when we're going to talk about that because that's probably the thing we're going to get to. But we're going to go through the episode in order first. But man, this was just a whole lot to take in at once.
Yeah, and I think we all want to handle it with care too, because it's some real life stuff that went on in this episode allegedly. It's also great reality TV. It's also comfy reality TV, which sometimes makes for great viewership. But yeah, Zoe spoiler free and saw the clips for this and was like, I need to see this episode ASAP. Me, who's known spoilers, have needed to see the episode ASAP. So I think we're gung ho to get going and talk about this shit show or lack thereof.
Jumping right in, we come back from elimination and we're going to talk about what everyone is listening here for. Michele and Devin are hooking up. As you said, they're just a very cute couple. If you actually follow them on Instagram, they actually seem like a really compatible pair. I found this interesting though because Michele kind of talked about it. There's the Vacation Alliance, and she might be part of the Vacation Alliance via proxy of being with Devin. And when we talk about politicking, great play from Michele because going into the season, I thought she was going to have one of the biggest targets on her. I mean, we saw Cara and Laurel call her out for, those eliminations last season on season 39. And I thought she'd have a big target on her. Instead, she's kind of coasted through, and now she has a power player as a boyfriend and an ally. She's killing it.
I want to go back and watch this episode also on a side note and just count the number of times Vacation Alliance was said during this episode because it was unreal. I think it's excellent politicking. I also think that she's had hard eyes for Devin for a long time. And now he's finally on the market. Well, now he's off, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Michele is just so interesting to me because when Allan and I did our preseason guesses of what was going to happen, I thought she was first booked. But I think she's really benefiting from not being a big girl because although people don't like her, she's not seen as a threat right now. So might as well hang out in more ways than one. And it's so intelligent to politic. Do it if you can.
I don't even think there's intention behind it. I think she really just him. I think it's great. It ends up being a great game move, but I think she is just a lover girl through and through. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, if this doesn't work out, she'd make an excellent bachelorette one day, actually.
She was. And it's so annoying that people only get one confessional outfit again this season. It's literally tearing me up inside. But she did pick a really good one confessional outfit out of everyone. I like that top she's wearing. I think she looks great in it. And as you said, Zoe, certified lover girl. Like it's when she said, "Oh, I tried to play the game with just not trying to get into any hookups." Like, no, I mean, yeah, you say that every season and it still happens. But that's why she's built for this show.
Yeah, exactly. She's what the show is missing. We need more people like her cast. Like she's a perfect blend of competent competitor, wants to win, wants to do the things to win, but also is young and there to have fun. Like we need more young single people on this show.
Yeah.
Damn straight.
No notes. I mean, I fear for the future. She's with Devin. Like, I don't want to see them like steamroll a season, but like, she's what we need.
Maybe they like stage a breakup for X's 3, right?
Right.
They're smart enough to do that.
Yeah.
As good as he is for her game, she might not be the best thing for his game, which is just like a little side detail that even Devin noted. Like, but as he said, like she's a game changer. She's someone you break the rules for, which is like that's the type of romance I want to see on the show.
It was so cute.
And Devin's played this game so smart in recent years that it's like I like to see him maybe mess up a little bit here, and it kind of makes him a more intriguing character, especially because even though he won Ride or Dies, I thought that was his most boring season.
Yeah, I want to see when he's gotta like choose between her and Tori, or like I want to see how it makes things uncomfortable.
For sure.
And talking about Tori, as Zoe said, Vacation Alliance, Vacation Alliance, Vacation Alliance, said over and over again throughout the episode. Some people in the Vacation Alliance really try to underplay it. Some people, like Tori, she wears it like a badge of honor. What are the thoughts on the Vacation Alliance at this point? Because it seems like they actually do have a target on them rather than running the game.
Yeah, I mean, I thought at first it didn't make sense how they would, but like 2 guys and 2 girls from the 2 eras that are doing the best at this point, and I will give Tori her credit. I loved that she said, "Yeah, it's a thing." Like, it's a thing.
I love that something that was meant to be such a insult, like it was like a fan generated nickname because they hated them so much and it's just gained so much traction that now the rest of the cast is complaining about it. I think it's hilarious. It kind of felt like breaking the fourth wall in a way.
It did, and there is also something funny of them being like, "What, you're mad because we vacation and have fun together?" Like it, because that does sound kind of sick. I would like to go on a vacation too.
Well, and it was funny because Josh is the person who said it wasn't a thing. And then when they're talking about it, he was like, "Well, John A, you've got to be in it too because you hosted us in Nashville." Like he was so desperately like trying to like take the focus off the 4 of them. Meanwhile, Casey's in bed making her first appearance this season. It was just really crazy.
Really hurting my team score over there. But Josh is the number 1 benefactor of the Vacation Alliance too, so I understand why he wants to distance himself from it because he is like just he benefits from everyone else doing all the work basically.
I will say I did see production set him up a little bit when he said, "After we dominate season after season after season," and I'm like, "How many finals did you make in those seasons, Josh?" Like that's just how my brain works. But I know that's production setting him up for me to make fun of him.
Yeah.
Right.
Vacation Alliance aside, we move on to the daily challenge, and it is a daily challenge where they have to work as teams and carry these giant beams that are shaped like what's it shaped like? A giant like Y, a wishbone.
Oh,
Yeah.
why? Yeah.
Yeah, it's very heavy. As you'll see, Arrow One, who's already down to 6 people, massive disadvantage throughout this entire daily challenge, just not being able to carry as much weight. Um, they had to traverse this Y-shaped figure through a forest, um, grab some bags to then put onto a beam they had to balance on. This daily challenge is all about physicality and teamwork and communication.
I'm always intrigued by how Zoe would navigate a daily challenge. Like at this point, I'll watch them and think, what would Zoe's strategy be? So, Zoe, what would your strategy have been to get that Y through that alley of trees? Because I know mine.
I mean, I do think a lot of it came down to communication and just having like a leader. I mean, to me, it seemed pretty straightforward. I mean, I guess I've moved a lot of furniture in my life too, so it's just like you have to be coordinated. And sometimes they were going through these really small areas. It looked like I didn't understand. I think I tried to visualize the path first, like from point A to point B. I don't know how far away it was, if they could really see where they were going, but I mean, you could have even like had some of those teams that had more people could have sent someone in front to kind of scout a path. What do you think, Luke?
Well, to me, it looked like the trees were pretty equidistant, and that you could have taken the Y in and gone in, swung the back out, gone up, swung the back to the other side. And and it sounded like that's what Tina was saying, and CT was like, "That's not going to work." But like, it looked like it worked for other teams. So I don't know if like I think this is definitely one of those things. It's like from the couch, this looks really easy to me. If I were actually there, it wouldn't be. But like from the jump, we saw a strategy from Era One to try to hoist the entire thing up, bottom of the Y up. And as Darrell said, like by physics, that's not going to happen.
I understand why they wanted to do it that way. Yeah, it would make things a lot easier if it was going to work, but I mean, it's just too damn heavy.
Yeah, I think those beams were just way heavier than they even looked. I mean, they looked heavy on TV, but it's the moment when you see like Darrell and CT and Brad struggling at times, and Derek is making like crazy noises, just trying to hold the beams up. It's like, all right, this is not just some you could easily just move through. Because I mean, this was a harder daily challenge than I think expected. I mean, Jordan and Devin, who I think are pretty good at strategizing, they were going crazy and struggling throughout this. Jordan was like blowing a fuse.
I was surprised to not see any confessionals aside from Tori's about Jordan. Like, I love that he's passionate, but like, I could not be spoken to like that on a mission, especially when like when he's not up for like elimination. I understand his numbers are, but like, it was a lot.
Honestly, I found it kind of triggering. As someone that's dated bad men, sometimes I was like, really, I felt like I got a glimpse into the bad side of their relationship, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
y'all should stay broken up.
You are right. He wasn't up for elimination, but as we've seen, Jordan is sometimes his most insane when Tori is up for like elimination. As like you remember that elimination between Tori and Jenna on Total Madness, where he's just shouting at the end of his lungs for the entire elimination.
Yeah, yeah.
Credit to Era 4, who basically had no confessionals throughout this entire daily challenge until they won it. They cruised through this. Oh,
well, and I was going to say, because we did leave this out, and I think it's a crucial part of this episode that ties in with the Vacation Alliance in this. I was happy that Era 4 cruised through this because they expressed some very real concerns to Josh early on in this episode. Like, you said you're going to volunteer last week and you didn't. Like, how can we trust you? To which I thought Josh gave a very realistic answer. People were going to volunteer because they heard that I was going in. CT was one of them. Like, who from here told the other teams I was going to do that? Like, that was a pretty smart thing to say in response. I think had they lost, though, Josh would be like on the outs. He kind of got lucky. Well, he definitely got lucky that their team won.
Yeah. They looked like it was so easy though. They were working so well together as a team. Just the lack of ego I was impressed by, honestly. The fact that they were able to do it that way. But yeah, Josh definitely got really lucky here. And I was happy, especially like I didn't want to see Kylan have to go in. I Olivia I haven't forgiven yet, even if Nerese has. Um, but I was really happy that they won.
Yeah.
That group also in terms of just physical strength, I mean, they're so like you got Jenny, who's Olivia's built well, Casey, Josh is like he's 6'2", 215 pounds. Theo is just, I mean, Josh is a big dude, and then before that daily challenge, Theo was just towering over him. That team is
big and strong and fit too.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if Horacio was still here. Like, unreal.
Yeah, I can't.
This actually would have been a very competitive daily challenge that would have came down to the wire. Had had Laurel not just put down the beam and basically sat out the daily challenge through it because she's afraid of Emily Scrum in a final. And Emily Scrum as a target, she decided, like, you know what? I want you out of the game. I'll say this. Laurel throwing in Cara to the first elimination, throwing this daily challenge to get Emily out before the final. If this was just Laurel's gameplay and the way she kept her vibe throughout the entire season and talked to people in the house, like, this is how I'm playing the game, incredible consistency and smart gameplay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I this season and this podcast will be downing Laurel in some respects. I'm also gonna give her credit in some instances. This is one of them. I'm sorry. Like, if I'm Laurel and I look at she posted on Instagram recently, after All Stars 4, I just drank coffee and ate donuts. I did not work out for 40. I came in bad shape. I think they're still kind of working under the assumption that one guy and one girl from each era is going to be in the final. You know, CT said that in one of the like deleted clips the other day. It's not a bad strategy on her part if you're not the target to get the girl on your team out that's probably better than you.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
shady as hell, but like
oh, it makes perfect sense. I think it's the lack of consistency for me. Wanting to be everyone's best friend and saying that you've worked on social things and like insisting that certain cast members don't have the connections that you have, and you're doing all this really shady stuff and not realizing your entire team hates you except for Johnny. Like, you can't have, if you're gonna do it, you got to own it and accept that these people aren't gonna like you afterwards.
yeah. But we've seen this before too on Worlds 2 when she and Johnny pretty blatantly were throwing a daily and like couldn't admit it when called out.
Yeah, they both struggle with accountability.
And Laurel's been throwing daily challenges since all the way back on Cutthroat. It's always been part of her game. She's not above it, but she will get mad if you call her out for it.
And before anybody comments, she said in her confessional, we know she did. But like to her team, like just be bold to be like, yeah, Emily, you're a threat. Sorry.
I get you. Like, that's also stupid gameplay.
It is. I'm already anticipating comments for this podcast.
I would say honestly, she has to be a better actress then.
Right. Okay.
She's got to throw it in a better way so it's not so obvious, because you were so obvious and everyone knew what you were doing. So then you look stupid actually by not owning it.
Yeah.
It is fascinating that we don't really get any Laurel and Emily face-to-face conversations throughout all of this. Even when they had that little thing where she called her out for giving Darrell massages, they weren't looking at each other the entire time.
Laurel's so intimidated by Emily. It's so obvious. And Emily's just very non-confrontational at this point in her life.
Oh, for sure. She's a different breed.
Nehemiah gets hit in the crosshairs of this too, though. Of he's up for elimination, so now he's going to be potentially going in. Era 2 comes in. Era 3, I mean, comes in third place behind Era 2, and then you have Era 1, who just comes in last place again. Not even close. You see CT and Tina blowing up at each other, but then also kind of like they blew up, and then also kind of apologized immediately.
Yeah, it growth.
I loved it. Like they were pissed. And CT being the first one, like, you know what, Tina, I am sorry for yelling at you. And her like, you know what, I am too. I'm just pissed off. And then his confessional saying, like, we just care. And I really appreciate that because in my heart, I'm like, I like CT. I like Tina. Like, this hurts me. And to see them so quickly mend it and then be like, we just got to think about going forward was really, I liked that.
Especially because I've watched some of those older seasons recently. I was like, these guys in the Inferno, they would not have turned around and said sorry 5 seconds later. Like, they just would not have been capable. They would have been holding on to it the rest of the season. And so to see them blow up and get emotional and then immediately like make amends to each other, I was like, it's nice to see that people can grow up.
Yeah.
I mean, you even had Final Reckoning where he was kind of mad at Veronica, and you had Double Agents where he was maybe a little And he had the moment with Big T where he won the elimination. He's like, "Oh, give me Cam, give me Cam." This was a growth moment, like because I was like, "Oh, are we gonna get old CT here?" And then it's like, "Oh, we got a little bit of old CT, but also growth at the same time. Best of both worlds."
Yeah. 20 seasons later, the heavy hitters going in.
Oh yeah. Oh
I,
yeah.
I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but like we know they're already going to elimination. I really wish TJ would have said that at the elimination. Like 20 seasons later, these like, or 20 seasons ago, these two came in here as heavy hitters to take people out. They could have done the backpack scene, like,
Or
and
just
now they're back.
one of those picture frame videos they've been editing in. That would have been so perfect to see. Oh my God, Luke, that would have been amazing.
What do I know?
They need more. They need at least one more like lifelong fan on the production team. You know, like someone who can really see, who has the vision.
Yeah.
That would have been beautiful. Those two up for elimination. They're going in. What do we got from there? So before even the daily challenge happened, we had a scene between Nehemiah and Devin where Nehemiah was kind of pitching the idea of like, "Hey, if we win the daily challenge, we'll look out for you. If you guys win the daily challenge, you'll look out for us." Era 3, Era 2 type bond. And it puts Devin in a tough situation because Era 3 is definitely leaning towards Era 4, as we talked about before, because vacation alliance things. But yeah, Nehemiah is just playing the game for himself, and I think is like a very, in a way that you should be playing the game because you should never just like give up.
Yeah. I watched it thinking like, this is dumb because Devin's never going to do it. But then I was reminded that Devin and Wes are friends.
Yes.
And I was like, so maybe he is going to do this. So if like you're listening to this and you're thinking, why would Nehemiah appeal to that? I was with you, but they share a very like Nehemiah's best friend, and Devin and him are pretty close.
Were they both in his wedding party?
Yeah, and Wes's wedding had 12 people at it. Like so.
Devin was in Wes's wedding.
Oh yeah, I
What?
yeah. This was it was so Wes's wedding had it. Literally, it was only Nehemiah, Melinda, Lacey, Rachel. Danny wasn't there. Johanna wasn't there, and then Devin was the only non.
And CT?
CT was not there.
Ah.
It was a very small ceremony.
But answer this: Devin was at his wedding, or Devin was in his wedding?
In like it was only like it was like only like a 12, 13 person wedding.
Interesting.
I know we went to the bachelor party. Like,
So Wes actually had 3 bachelor parties with very weird groups of people, including Josh Murray from The Bachelor, Louis Vito from Chance vs. Pros, Booby Gibson, Brad, a lot of very weird, just like a weird cavalcade of names. Wes had multiple bachelor parties, but for his wedding, he only had like 12 people.
That's a deep dive for me for like right after this podcast. Okay. So yes, they have this conversation, and like, if you're going to appeal to anybody, I guess it does have to be Devin because you think they're going to win. But as we quickly find out, he shoots himself in the foot.
well, and it just, yeah, it ended up in the worst possible way for them because I don't know that it ends in his favor, even if Era 3 does win. But now you just gave Devin all the ammo he needs in deliberation. By also what he said to Era 4 before deliberation started.
Completely.
It also wasn't like a good group for, I think, Era 4 winners for Nehemiah to be put in that. Actually, I don't even think there was any scenario with Era 4 winners where Nehemiah would have been put in a good position. Because Devin has such a good influence over that group. Tori has such good relationships with all those people. Emily Strom did not even say a single word. I feel like she just was like, "Oh, I guess I'm going in."
Well, I think once she got stunned finding out that Nehemiah had tried to cut this deal without her knowledge, she just was like, I think she was like uncomfortable and didn't know what to do.
I love that CT and Tina did nothing. Like, I love that they said make them. What's the word they used?
Make them squirm.
Squirm. Yes. Let's not make it easy for them. And I love that that was how it went. I think that Tori, as annoying as she can be to people at times, is so smart how she plays this game. So incredibly intelligent.
We didn't podcast about USA 2, but Tori's gameplay at the end of USA 2, where she flipped those Survivor girls who were against her onto her side, was so impressive. She really is good at this game.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm rewatching USA 2 right now.
Does it hold up?
Of course. I actually rewatched USA 1. It kind of held up. But anyways, Tori let Devin take the reins, which is smart because he's smart, but also because it doesn't put blood on her hands.
And Devin already has a reputation in the house, so like let him just dig that hole a little deeper, because she can recover from the loss of him. I think in this game she has enough connections. I think he would actually struggle a lot more to recover from the loss of her.
We move away from this deliberation just knowing that it's going to be Nehemiah and Emily going in for sure. We then have a scene where I think Michele and the whole Era 4 talking, I forget what they were even talking about, in all honesty. But then Laurel just pans into camera and she throws, what did
A note?
A what?
Was it a note?
I thought it was a note, or it was like either a note, a bag of tea, or a tampon into Michele's lap. Because I thought I saw like a string on there, or it might have been a note, but she said, "Oh, that's not for you." Typed it. It was a very weird thing. It was just one of the weirdest encounters I've ever seen. I don't even know where to go with this.
I do think it was innocent. I think it was like accidentally done. Like she meant to throw it at Tori, perhaps, but like it ricocheted her.
Free.
Okay, and
said,
I forgot she's on the season.
Took it back.
I thought like it was an innocent exchange, and she like even pat her on the back. But if I know one thing about Michele, she can get paranoid, and trust me, she has reason to be with the situation. So Michele goes to find Laurel as she's watching Tori do her makeup. And you see Tori, who's like, "Oh, TV time," put her mic back on. And then it just happens.
It's hard to even describe because it's like nothing really happened. I think Michele was just trying to acknowledge the uncomfortable relationship that they have and wanting it to not be uncomfortable.
And I can also respect Laurel in the situation for being like, this is already exhausting me, because they have already had this conversation. But I think in Laurel's mind, Michele was wanting screen time. I don't think Michele cares about screen time. I think she like loves a good game and the screen time follows her. I had to laugh though because Laurel cut Michele off. Like she didn't let her finish. And then when she was speaking, Michele simply rolling her eyes, "Are you gonna let me finish?" It's like, yes, she is. Were you gonna let her finish? Like, I'm gonna touch on this later on after we talk about the car stuff. So I'm gonna reserve some of my thoughts.
Well, let's go back to Ride or Dies, actually. Let's talk about the whole Laurel Michele thing, because we talked about it before, where when we had the deliberation or the team meeting where Laurel's trying to protect Jordan, and she says, "Oh, some person personally went after me, and he took them out of the game once I was gone." Like Michele had to nominate 4 people on Ride or Dies. Laurel and Jack were one of those teams because they had to nominate 4. And then Laurel's actions towards Michele after getting nominated is what put Laurel in that elimination, because they were not the intended targets that week. Laurel then just like kind of just going at Michele is what led to her going in. You got something, Luke? Or
I was just gonna say, and that like I know that Michele was Jay's partner, but like if anything, it was like a skeezy move on Jay's part because he was friends with Jack. Neither of those men are on the season. Like
Thank God.
I would
Sorry.
like Jay actually, but I understand Laurel not wanting any part though. Like I can't fault her. I don't think she's like gone out of her way to make Michele feel bad on this season thus far. Thus far, but I think that like I think she could have also been the bigger person and just been like, yeah, it was weird. Like, there's no hate, but like, let's just like keep it casual, which they do get to that point, but it could have been said initially. Like, Michele was apologizing for her actions on Ride or Dies, and Laurel brought up her actions on Ride or Dies. It's like, yeah, I'm apologizing for that and acknowledging that makes you feel bad, but now I don't want to because you're now throwing it back in my face.
Something that annoys me though is that I think Laurel says it's one-sided. But if you guys watch the season 39 reunion, we didn't do a podcast about it. Laurel, anytime Michele said something, would try to bring her down and try to diminish her gameplay. And people on that cast had even like stepped up for Michele because Michele played a fantastic game on season 39. And had she not lost in that purge at the end, I think she would have had a real shot to win that season. Um, she played that game perfectly. She just couldn't run on a log. That's all it came down to. And Laurel spent that reunion not knowing the season at all, basically, just trying to bring Michele down.
Except for at times where she wanted to say, no one should be treated like that. I so feel for you. Very polar reactions on that reunion, which I'm gonna again.
Because of Callum?
Yes, I'm prepping this for when we get to the car thing because I've got so much to say. Please keep in mind that she's doing this with Michele here. I will say, this is where Cara inserts herself, and from any standpoint, I think Cara should not have inserted herself. Like, this is me who has been Team Cara All Stars 4 and this season. Cara entering the room and saying to Michele, I'll be your friend outside of here. Even Michele looked uncomfortable about her saying that. Like, the body language was there, the face was there. It was weird.
It was just classic awkward Cara.
Yeah.
I think she didn't know how to naturally segue out of that room. And like I think she did want to talk to Michele, be like, I would like to bury the hatchet with you, like we're cool, whatever. But she doesn't know how to do things normally sometimes. And that's what she did.
Yeah.
And I also she wants to stick it to Laurel. Like she's sick of her shit.
Completely. And Laura had the confession that said, oh, here goes Cara trying to rally people to her side to be against me. And I want to point out, yeah, it sucks, doesn't it, Laurel? You just did this on All Stars 4. And listen, I hate a tit for tat type situation, but like, you shot first.
At the beginning of the episode, Laurel's like, I can't believe Cara Maria can't get over when I threw her into elimination 2 weeks ago, basically, like a week ago. It's like, yeah, no shit, she's not over it.
Because there was no real reason that you've given. Now you've given one reason to her and one reason in confessionals. You've said it's because she's a huge threat. You've also said it's it's because you guys don't get along, whatever, like, or you think that she's not as good, which is ridiculous. Like she's just completely out to lunch in so many ways. Like her behavior is so inconsistent.
She's self-serving. If it does not serve Laurel, like it does not play any part of her game.
Which for the most part, I want to say I'm okay with in these games. I completely am. Like, I like to think that a lot of the times the people we see on this show, it's not who they are outside of this game. But we're about to full blown like go off on Laurel because it goes beyond the game in a sense.
Yeah, that moment Cara walked into screen, I felt like I was watching a horror movie because we know, like, oh my god, she's about to get literally, like, as we've seen in the trailers, like this is gonna go off the rails, real fast.
Could be the power of editing, but the next scene that has any substance to it is Cara and Michele in the pantry. Laurel walks in and says, do you have an attitude problem? I want to point out here that this is Laurel initiating this conversation. Now, had Cara said something before, perhaps we can only work off the edit, which is great in some instances, bad in others, which we're about to talk about. But this quickly escalates just to highs, lows, laughs, cries, choppy editing.
Yeah, as someone that's completely unspoiled, I was really confused by the interaction because at first I felt like Cara was holding her ground and just basically explaining to Laurel like you're not going to bully Michele and you're not going to bully me anymore. Like give it up. It's not working. And then it felt like the next scene Cara was like painfully crying. Like it not a I'm crying because I'm uncomfortable or I'm crying because I'm upset. Like there was pain in her eyes and I'm like where the hell did this come from?
Yeah. And in the midst of this too, we have Laurel pointing in Cara's face and saying, and when Cara puts hers back, and she clearly does it like to be like, this is what you're doing. Don't put your finger in my face. It's like, you just put it in mine. And I think this is the most telling because we're going to talk soon about like what we've allegedly heard and that you could like find on social media. But like, I think it's pretty telling that the whole house was so concerned they ran there. And sure, they love the drama. But you have Josh consoling Cara. You have Corey and Naya shaking their head at Laurel. You have Casey looking astonished. Like the girl never shows emotion. And even Devin being like, ooh, she's acting this way.
Security.
Yeah, security's in the way, which is major. Um, and like, I'm not going to fault Laurel for being a tall woman, but like, there is a clear power imbalance when you're hovering over someone's face and you're that much taller than them. And people can say all they want. Cara initiated it. Please get a grasp on reality that you can irritate someone, you can pester them. That does not give someone the right to get in your face, point in your face, bring you to tears. And typically, if that happens, the person backs off and says, whoa, this has escalated. Not to mention what's been alleged has been discussed in this. And I think we just jump into it.
Yep.
Allegedly, and this was tweeted by spoiler accounts who some tweets have been deleted, some haven't. Look it up on Reddit if you want to. I truly feel like after the episode, much like we discussed with Derek and Horacio, would get more clarity. I think we will too after this episode as cast members speak. Allegedly, in this situation, Laurel brought up Cara being a victim and that she likes being a victim, something to that effect, and also brought up past intense situations that Cara has found herself in that Laurel has been privy to know about as her friend at that time. If you want to read between the lines, go for it. I'm specifically talking about a relationship Cara was in when Laurel also lived in Montana, and also other things that might be recent that have been alleged on social media. You can be upset. She might have been upset that Cara brought up, hey, I was there for you on All Stars when that shit was happening with Nicole. That is a different ball game than the type of things that Cara went through, and that didn't happen on the show. For Laurel to be this visibly mad and bring up things from Cara's past that are purely traumatic to her and say that she likes being a victim, and this is alleged. I have no clue, I wasn't there. This is just from what people told spoiler accounts after they got back. But if that is true and taken out of the edit, probably for legal purposes and because they don't want to show that side of reality TV, that is sick.
I mean, I think if reading between the lines based on the rest of the cast's reactions, you know she crossed a line, right? Like
Yes.
there's clearly something that was said that was not okay because just judging body language of the people around and then the response to Cara afterwards versus the response to Laurel, like she did something wrong. She did something that really offended everyone there. Um it's it's actually so ridiculous to belittle someone that's found themselves in abusive relationships and to minimize it and to like suggest that they did something to deserve it. And I mean, I was not a Cara fan when I was watching Bloodlines, but watching that reunion, I knew something in my bones was wrong with Abram. And I feel really comfortable saying that now, especially what after what his his baby mama has alleged on social media about his behavior. I think it's also it shows the complete lack of self-awareness because Laurel completely fits into that role in Kara's life as just another person that treats her like dirt, but also will love bomb her and treat her like she's like fantastic. It's disgusting. I'm really, really disgusted.
Well, and I want to point this out too because I think that people are going to naysay and say if it didn't happen, then if it happened, then it should have been in the edit. Sure. Here's some possible reasons why. They don't want perhaps Abram or other cast members from the past to maybe get involved and like say, hey, don't air my name, don't do things like this. They might be trying to protect Kara so her past situations are not aired out on national television again to relive. They naturally are going to based on how spoilers go on social media. But it also makes it where people like us and people who want to tweet about it, who have the information, don't really have the leg to stand on to like take a stand and say Laurel's wrong because all these things we've heard alleged, we can't prove that that's what happened. We can't because it might have been a different version from someone who told someone else. So I want to make that very clear. We're working off of what we've heard, but like the spoilers have been pretty accurate for about 15, 16 years now. And I do feel like cast members are going to talk about it. And if we're wrong, we're wrong. We're just basing this off of what we've heard.
Shame on MTV for a couple reasons. Like, I believe Kara. I am team Kara on this. I don't think like you said, Luke, the spoilers have been really consistent in the last few years, and usually even if something's wrong initially, it's corrected while things are airing. So by not telling the full story, they're making we now have this false narrative that Kara did something to like deserve her Laurel's treatment of her, or she was equally responsible or guilty in this encounter, and that's just not the case. The other thing is like this show is built off of the real world, which is like this groundbreaking, moving, beautiful example of having hard conversations. So it's like what the whole premise of the real world was, bringing together all these different people and talking about real life shit and figuring it out. And we've moved so far away from dealing with things just to avoid things that are uncomfortable on this show. And it's like this is such a huge platform for you to like give anyone to talk about, or to like even if it was other cast members like holding Laurel accountable and saying what she did was disgusting. You don't have to put that on Cara. Let other people speak about it. It's just like there's no accountability. And I understand there might be some liability legality things where they can't have names, but then edit out the names. Like who cares?
Put up a black screen. They love a black screen. Like the fight escalated, yada, yada, yada. This was the result. Then go back into the scene where security's there. They're consoling her. Like, give us some more context. Because, yeah, I think Kara poked a bear. That does not necessarily mean that she deserves what she got in response. Like, allegedly. And I want to point out too, and I'm gonna let you talk, Allan, because I know that me and Zoe are so passionate about this that we've been like steamrolling. But even Johnny Bananas, who is Laurel's #1 fan, has a confessional where he says they've got a long history, which we all know. Kara wants out of that dynamic. Laurel's not ready to release her, and that's perfectly it. And here's what I was going to say about Michele earlier, because it's the perfect time. When Kara first said, she put this on an Instagram comment today being, well, yesterday, Tuesday, said, Laurel's looking for a new person to treat like she treated me. At first, it's like, that's not true. I watched the episode. The up and the down of like, I'll rub your back while I grab this note from your lap. I will tell you I'll be cordial, but then tell you that you're not letting me finish. I will, on the reunion of 39, downgrade all your accomplishments, but then defend you with my whole heart, which makes you think that I actually care about you. When Michele sticks up for Kara in the pantry, Laurel's like, this isn't about you. I respect you. I don't respect her. Why are you now like giving her a compliment because she's siding with your friend? It's because she wants to keep Michele on this up and down. She realizes that Kara won't do it anymore. So she's resorting to getting very angry. Kara has got out of the narcissistic cycle. Here's my new target. And I did not believe that at first, But after seeing this episode, it's pretty clear to me she wants Michele to like beg for her attention in her favor.
I fully agree with you, Luke. Um, Especially watching it back, it's pretty damning. Um, Laurel is such a interesting figure because she is so intimidating. She's one of the most intimidating humans I've ever met. When I first met her, she was the nicest, literally one of the nicest interactions I've ever had as a human, where she like seeked me out and was like, I need a photo with you, yada, yada, yada. And even though she was being so kind, there was still just something so intimidating about her. Laurel said some mean things to me too. And I'm going to be honest, it was less intimidating than when she was nice. That is the creature that she is. It's I don't blame Michele for like kind of wanting a little bit just to be cordial, for maybe wanting to be things to be good. And Cara saw that path and she's like, no, I need to cut this off. And when Cara started this whole thing, she didn't bring up just herself. She's like, you're going off on Darrell, you're going off on Michele, you're going off on Emily. So it wasn't just that Cara was fighting for herself, she's fighting for other people because she's like, you know what? I can deal with this shit. Why are you bringing these other people into your messy actions? Why are you bringing the whole house down? You're talking about this great social game, but here you are just being a dickhead to everyone.
Allan, I think what you said is like so important and so relevant. She, there is something always bubbling under the surface with her that when she's being kind to you, it's like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, or you're waiting for for someone to do something that's going to upset her, because she doesn't have right-sized reactions to things. And I think everyone on that cast is afraid of her wrath. Everyone. Like, I don't think CT wants to deal with her wrath, like she is so erratic. She's like a live grenade. You're just waiting for her to go off at some point. And so some people create distance and avoid her and don't engage with her, and some people do this like fawning response where they try to like buddy up to her and win her favor. But she's the epitome of an intimidating person. I mean, her behavior is just so erratic. She was like, years ago, I mean, this is my Laurel story because it's ridiculous that I have one, like sending me, as a fan of hers, like paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs about her relationship with Nicole while she was on X on the Peak. Because I like sent her a DM, was like, proud of you, like whatever, everything, everyone sees through her shit. And then like a year later, she tweeted about something she didn't have the full story on, and I was like, that was probably not the right tweet to send. And she blew up on me and blocked me, and I'm still blocked to this day. But I'm just like,
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't going to bring it up because it wasn't my story too, and I won't talk deeply on it. But like, that's why I mentioned earlier, I'd like to think that these people are just like this way on a show for money. Like, sure, your competitive nature can overpower, but like, I've known too many people that Laurel has like gone into their DMs on a random Thursday at 7 p.m. on a tirade. And like, it makes me hesitant. I said before we podcast this, I don't even want to talk about it because I don't want her to like get mad at me. We're just discussing a TV show that we get to watch. And listen, I'm not immune to the idea that these are people too. Like, we've got to be careful how we talk, I guess. They're also on a television show doing these actions, and it's not their first one. Like, they know it's going to be seen. If you can't handle the repercussions of your actions, maybe don't go on the show. And if you can't handle the masses disliking you and think it's like this cold idea and everybody's just like doing what Cara says, it's like nobody liked Cara like 2 years ago. Like, she had her fans, of course, but like out of the three of us, like we weren't her biggest fans. Like, when she left in World War II, I was honestly like, we don't need to see her again. I just don't like to see this weird power dynamic. And sure, people can say what they want about Cara being annoying, all these things. It does not mean that she's deserving of someone's wrath to that caliber. It just doesn't. and you can say all day long, well, then you don't actually like good TV, because people say it all the time. I love good TV. You can take it a step too far.
Yeah.
Like,
I tweeted this a couple weeks ago and it got a lot of people mad. It's the Camilla line. And before Camilla's thing with Leroy and Dirty 30, she was already insufferable. She hit a point where if any little thing in the game did not go her way, she completely blew up and took things out of proportion to the point that I was annoyed. Occasionally it could be good TV, but other times it was just uncomfortable to watch. And that is the line of like, once you cross it, it's hard to ever come back.
I'm not interested in watching people be traumatized if there's going to be no accountability. Like, I think the recent Bachelorette finale got a lot of flack from fans because it didn't end well. And the lead was the first Asian American lead was forced to watch her proposal, which went up in flames afterwards, on the couch sitting next to the man that broke her heart, for those of you who are not fans of the show. And the general response from fans was, this was disgusting. You shouldn't have made her do this. Like, we didn't need to see this. So, like, knowing what Cara was put through and knowing that Laurel's not really facing the consequences of her actions, it's gross to me. She should have to stand in what she said.
In the same breath, though, to that point, I totally agree. But I do feel like that's partly why this is edited out, to not make Cara have to relive this situation. I just hate that, like you said, by this being the case, Laurel, if all this is true, or if any of it's true, doesn't have to take the accountability.
I think that there's ways to address it without making her maybe relive like the darkest parts of it. I think that like production owed Cara Maria some version of events where we at least know what lines were crossed as fans. So people know what side to be on, frankly.
Completely. And I think by trying to protect her here, they're going to do her a disservice by giving her a lot of hate come after the episode Wednesday, where people are like, you provoked her, you ended this conversation, you did this, you did that, you did that, which sure, but like we're also not seeing the bulk of the fight.
I'm breaking the fourth wall a bit. I've had enough interactions with cast members who are like, oh, this is going to be one of the most messy things you've ever seen. Whatever we got was not, we did not even get to see, I would say, 20% of how messy and dark this got. So if you didn't like what you saw today from Laurel, just know from all indications I've had from literally a handful of people that were there, it was much worse. It was much, much worse than this. So take that for what you will. I guess a little other just thing I want to note myself. I was annoyed watching Laurel basically describe herself when talking to Cara, where she called her a teenage girl. Laurel, the same person who, when Darrell was like talking back to her, she said, you look stupid, and had no real comeback. She was talking like a 12-year-old. When Cara just reciprocated her energy, said, oh, you're yelling again. When we watched Laurel scream like a toddler at the end of her lungs during that deliberation on All Stars 4, Cara did not get anywhere near as loud as that, not even a tenth. And that's just talking about this from an objective standpoint, not even the dirty, dark stuff that we didn't see.
Yeah. And I think the aftermath, because I think we can move there, because I think next week we'll have more to add to this, because we'll hear more perspectives. And listen, we will fully come on here next week if things have changed our minds and say, we had it wrong. Don't think it's going to happen, because like Allan said, I've heard recordings from Challenge Manias where cast members have talked about how horrible it was. I think we'll get the full inside scoop after that. But afterwards, you have Laurel just like seething in a hallway, just seething. The only people to come to her aid are Theo and Kyland.
I think Kyland was the only one. Theo was cooking dinner. Theo was cooking a steak.
Oh, yeah. And he said, if you need a hug, give a hug. Okay, I'm glad you said that, because I was like, listen, his loyalties really should be with Cara, considering their past on the show. But yeah, Kyland did. Did he have ulterior motives in doing that?
The rumor is that Kyland apparently told Laurel he's into her. That was a spoiler I saw at one point. and that he maybe tried to kiss her. Or that's the thing Laurel said, that Kylan tried to do that. So Kylan is also the type of guy with, his brain, he just gets the play by play from Laurel. It's like, oh, well, I guess, you're right, because he wasn't one of the people that was in the mix of things.
He
and
also he knows a thing or two about a low blow.
Yeah.
It's true. I would really love to hear Devin, believe it or not, Corey, Naya, and Casey's perspective. Even Michelle's. I think Michelle's got the key perspective there. There might still be some bias involved. But, Devin's been going live after each episode, and he's not been holding back.
I want to talk to Rachel Robinson about it, too.
Yeah.
Corey looked disgusted. And Corey has seen everything on these shows. He's been through a lot himself. So the look on his face was like absolutely being repulsed. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I think too, I just like Rachel is like such a good person with such a good head on her shoulders who I think can see things really objectively. And for her to be so adamantly team Cara and like defending her, being with her physically, like just the amount of support that was around Cara after that, I was like, you can't see these two things and tell me that one person wasn't clearly in the wrong.
For sure. And I want to add too, because we did not talk about this. There is a scene where Cara talks with Emily, and she does talk about Laurel being insecure and things like this that maybe in itself are not kosher either. I'm not going to let her off that easy. I don't think it's anybody's place. Well, it might be. I think Laurel's insecure. I'll say it. But like, does this even pale in comparison to what happened just months, well, not just months, but like airing just months previous on All Stars 4? It's like, I hate to do the tit for tat thing, but like, if you're going to rally a house against Laurel or against Cara, like, you can't be mad when Cara does it to you, especially when what she's saying is likely true. Laurel wants you out, Emily. That is true. She's intimidated by you. That is true. I'm not going to get into the whole like, it's because you're pretty, because Laurel's a very beautiful woman herself. I think that was a weird thing to add in there. But like, I know people are going to say, well, then that's why Emily was at her defense. That's why Ryan, because Ryan and her don't get along. But I'm so glad Zoe said Rachel. Rachel's not going to come on here and pander for fan favor, let alone with Cara Maria. Like, I think she is the moral sticking point in the middle. Like, I'm going to go where she goes.
Rachel's been completely unafraid on social media to get people mad sometimes and to get people happy sometimes this past few months.
Yeah, she gets on my nerves, but like, I do think that she's going to tell the closest version to the truth.
Do we move on?
Yes.
All right. Back to Wes's wedding. That was from 5 years ago. Imagine listening to 2 minutes of us talk about Wes's wedding just to go into all of that.
Reality TV in a nutshell.
So back to Wes's wedding. Nehemiah gets voted into elimination over Devin, and Emily is also going in. We're at the arena, so it's going to be Nehemiah and CT, Tina and Emily. The elimination was they had to take 100 nails off a wall and then hammer the 100 nails in. The first player to do so wins the elimination.
This was the low budget one, which is interesting. Maybe they were just worried about CT's back. I don't know.
I didn't hate it.
I hated it.
I didn't like it either.
It's definitely an equalizer. I will give you it's an equalizer. It is also boring as shit.
It was definitely more boring than I expected.
There's one exciting part, which was more just shocking.
Yeah. And I still just jump in. Like, women's elimination. Can we jump in?
Yeah, we got Tina versus Emily.
And dare I say, there's going to be a strong case on social media that they rigged for Tina. Like, I am sorry. Everybody else tried out that same strategy. I can't imagine she had the perfect rhythm, the perfect speed, the perfect like velocity to get those nails out in one fell swoop. Loved it though. Loved it. But yeah.
I want to know which production member nailed Tina's nails into that wall because I mean, just the sound of them falling was unreal. Her basically just like scraping her hammer against the board and knocking out what 75, 80 nails in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
I wonder if
Oh,
production went, oh no, that's supposed to be CT's wall.
Honestly.
maybe.
Like,
Um,
oh man, we mixed them up.
because I thought too, like when Emily was doing it, I was like, okay, maybe like she's just like being too cautious and like whatever. But both the guys tried it too, and it just like pushed them flat to the board.
I have to
So
be guys, I love you both. Am I an idiot? Because I'll be honest, I was joking with you guys right now. I watched it the whole time thinking, hell yeah, Tina's kicking ass. This isn't rigged at all. I guess I'm an idiot. I guess I wanted to feel good for Tina and I bought in. What you guys saying, but like I watched that just being like, yeah, Tina's got it down. Emily's trying to get one nail out at a time.
I would love if it weren't rigged. I hope that nobody brings it up. But like my very first reaction when that happened
Well,
was,
you brought it up. It's right here.
well, yeah. Well, no, I wasn't gonna. Well, that's true. But with it in my mind, nobody listens to this. Hello, all the people that listen. Uh, as soon as she did it, I was like, oh, here we go. Like they're gonna try this. If it doesn't work, it's gonna be rigged. And then they tried it. It didn't work. Oh, this looks rigged.
I mean, I've used a hammer and to pull out nails before. If it's in the wall, you shouldn't be able to just go like this and like brush them out. Like there should be a little work that goes into it.
She took the hammer sideways and just rigged it down, and they all came out.
I want to like replay the sound right now of all of them like cascading to the floor.
If you're listening to this in your car, you're probably not. I don't know, and you've got quarters in your cup holder, just drop them on the floorboard. Make sure there's a lot. Like, yeah, just shake up all the quarters you have. That's what it sounded like. Now imagine if you had the superhuman strength to take a hammer at such an angle and a speed to knock all those nails out. Listen, I'm happy for Tina.
It was an insane moment. Like I can't imagine how all the people there watching felt in that moment. I'm sure they were having the same conversations we're having now, honestly. Like that was supposed to be CT's wall, I think was probably first. But like yeah, it was just unreal. And then after that I was like she can't lose. It would be actually be the most pathetic loss maybe ever if she did lose.
I was impressed because she was locked in. She had the nails in her mouth as she was still hammering. She was going. I thought she was locked in. I was like impressed.
She's a woodworker. She goes to Home Depot a lot.
She looks like she also can't be understated. She's in great shape. Like she
Yeah.
is like compared to these last few seasons. Like she actually had like her arms were looking great. Like her arms muscles, like her whole, like she's looking fantastic.
Listen, I hope I'm wrong. You won't see me on social media like rallying the like Tina rigged train or whatever it's called. I don't know. But like go back and rewatch it, Allan. Like I think you're gonna be like, oh,
I feel like you just told me Santa Claus wasn't real because I was just so excited for Tina, and because I was ready to tweet. I'm ready to tweet my stuff out, and I'm ready to see like the tweets under my tweets of like this was obviously rigged, and I was not ready for that. Like after this podcast, but I'm
maybe
still
I'm
gonna
wrong.
tweet it. I was happy for Tina. I mean,
Me
also
too.
like it's insane too because we have Emily on the this whole Cara Laurel situation. It's overshadowing the fact that Emily Scrum is before coming into the season regarded as one of the top 5 strongest women in challenge history. Never been eliminated before, not even like close. Gets taken out by Tina. Like it that is like it is so crazy also just well like imagine telling someone 5 years ago Emily Scrum is going to take her first elimination loss to Tina, who has not been on the show in however long. Like we are living in the challenge Mad Libs world these days.
Absolutely we are.
Yeah. We get to the men's side.
We get to the men's side. Nehemiah versus CT, and I think everyone thought this would be a wrap. including Nehemiah a bit, because he's like CT's worked in construction his entire life. He's flipped houses as like profession for many years. Like CT was like this eliminate. I was like, oh, this elimination was made specifically for CT in mind. Um, and CT went with the Tina strategy, and he was like, oh, god damn it, my nails are further into my wall.
CT got Tina's wall, and it was all fucked up.
Yeah. So they just started going one by one. I thought that Derek's arch nemesis, allegedly, Nehemiah, had a good strategy, even if it wasn't intentional. He had one nail that was stuck in the hammer, which helped steady it against the board, which made like for a smoother like pull out each time. And I was like, that's really clever if it was intentional. And if not, that's really lucky.
Nehemiah's good at this little like precision type stuff, because I remember there was that last daily challenge on All Stars 2 where they had to untie the knots and all the men could not untie knots, and Nehemiah actually had the coordination to do so. He just was like, he was just plucking them out almost like he was using chopsticks. Like it was like someone getting a single grain of rice with chopsticks. He was just going with that noise. Exactly.
He had a strategy, he had a game plan, and he committed to it, and he stuck with it the whole time, laser focused.
And it came down to the wire. I mean, they were literally tied, coming like with their nails out of the wall. I did laugh because TT's wall was so much more like damaged. Like you could see him getting frustrated and just like he was trying to do the Tina strategy and damage his wall, and now he's trying to get the nails out. Whereas like Nehemiah's wall was pristine.
Yeah, part of me wonders like what stopped CT from just like hammering above the wall and ripping the whole wall out.
Right.
It came down literally to like a few nails, and what's funny is they had a little edit moment where CT like dropped a nail as he was like pulling one out, pulling like something to like put in, and I thought it was going to come down to one nail. No, it didn't. Nehemiah won by like 5 or 6 nails. He runs, he hits the buzzer, and CT actually looked shocked. Like he was like, "Oh, did I just lose? This elimination was built for me, and I just lost."
Yeah.
The editing around this moment was really telling. Like the music and the whole cast reaction, just like it felt like CT's retirement. Like it really, I was like, are we never going to see CT again? Because it really feels like it in this moment.
I was waiting for him to announce it like that. The music built up. I was like, "Ooh, here we go!" Like, but he'll be back.
No, he was just very like nostalgic and appreciative and very humble and gracious in his loss. Man, would have been made a great montage, honestly.
Nehemiah, I mean, even after the elimination, like, wait, did I just beat CT? Did that really happen? Like, it just because it happened so casually. CT, he was smiling and laughing because he's lost eliminations and he's blown up before. He knew like this elimination was built for me, and I just got beat cleanly straight up by Nehemiah. He's like, I have no ill will towards Nehemiah. He's just a good dude, so he's just gonna smile and take the loss because there's just nothing to be mad about.
Yeah, he handled that with a lot of class.
Good for Nehemiah. I mean, this is a moment like that's supposed to like build your challenge legacy, and it's another thing where this whole Laurel Cara drama just completely overshadows Emily taking her first loss, CT going down to Nehemiah.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate is it's overshadowing it without us really knowing what happened on screen. So it was a janky episode.
A little backtrack I do want to note though is that during the Emily and Tina elimination, Laurel was going absolutely bananas the entire time for Tina and making gestures and faces because obviously she wants Emily out. But what was very telling is that she kept like gesturing over to people like, "Oh my God, you see this going on?" And nobody on her team is actually even looking at her because they don't fuck with her vibe after what she's done. And even Bananas, who is like her ally, like he's upset because he's friends with Emily and doesn't want to see Emily losing. So he doesn't get why like Laurel's just popping off. I mean, he gets it, but he doesn't want to feed into it.
I would argue that he would put Emily above Laurel in his hierarchy easily. Like
Yeah.
Emily, I think is one of the few women on this show that Bananas actually sees as an equal. He doesn't often look at women that way, and I think she is the one of the very few exceptions to that.
Yeah, her and Angela Babbix.
Angela Babbix, Wes's wedding. You get it all this episode, except the actual edit of the fight.
So we get the targets.
Yep. Let's start with the women who were targeted. Rachel, it just happens by a default, which I thought was interesting. That it just like they didn't even give him the option to pick Tina, which would have been messed up if
It would have been, yeah.
I wonder if like maybe that's something that's been stated that you can't, like winning the elimination at least gives you safety for that week. Like
which it should, but
Yeah.
I think we talked about the idea. It's like maybe Tina should just go in every time. It's like no offense to her, just you got to protect Rachel on that squad.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
Then for era 2, Nehemiah's like, I'm putting in Laurel because inner team turmoil. Also, Laurel takes great offense to it. She's like, why am I targeted for a second time? Nehemiah, you obviously don't know how to play this game. Laurel, you just fucking threw the daily challenge that led to him going into elimination.
it doesn't matter if the only person you wanted to go in was Emily. The effect was that Nehemiah had to go in against CT in a construction elimination.
Yeah.
This is where I say, like, this is where like I make the Camilla comparison, because it's like your actions have consequences, and not every like, yeah, he threw you in, but you struck first.
Well, and honestly, you think CT wouldn't have put her in either? She was going in no matter what.
Mm-hmm. And it's Cara hasn't been going in because the men, they got respect for her, and she has connections that, like Laurel tried to say, Cara doesn't play the social game. Cara has a lot of friends on the male side of the game, especially all those era 1 men. Like, they love her. Congrats to Aviv though for like not even being on the radar anymore because of all this.
Yeah.
Era 3 comes up, and we had a really interesting scene during the middle of the episode where Johnny's like, I don't want to volunteer for elimination because I just don't feel like I should have to as like an obligation to the team. And CT's like, you're playing too shady of a game, you're overcomplicating things. And I think CT was wrong in this scenario because him and Johnny cannot play the same game because they have different privileges.
Yes. I thought the same exact thing.
And I don't blame Johnny for having that thought, but that's a thought you say when you first float the idea, not when it's your turn.
It's also a thought you float to Nehemiah, or, well, I guess it was CT because she thought CT would win as well. But like, maybe communicate that with Nehemiah if you think Nehemiah's going in, because she didn't communicate that with him at all.
I don't think it would have helped. And I'll tell you why, because he picks her after she says, it's not a good idea for me to be the target. And he still picks her. Because I think we saw him talk with Corey beforehand. I think him and Corey are being buds on this season. And Corey probably said, yeah, if you go in next up for us as John A, she's going to volunteer. And to see that hesitation, he's not going to piss off his newfound friends to save John A, who was supposed to go in anyway, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
At least it did to me.
Yeah, I think he was thinking about more of the era 3 reactions from the rest of the team than John A. And because he knew everyone else wanted her to do it. So he's piss off John A or piss off that whole team.
Well, and it's like, if you're John A, your team's been doing really well. Like, you have a chance to win the next daily. Why piss off 7 people or however many people are left on the team? I don't know. Like, I understand her not wanting to like sacrifice herself and then go home, but like, you're just setting yourself up further down the line.
This is one of those scenarios though where we talk about how the eras are kind of messed up. Where like John A in era 3 with all these people who are very commingling with era 4, and she doesn't feel like she's part of their group because she hasn't done seasons with them.
And she's more she would be much more cohesive in era 2.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't acknowledge this the entire episode, but throughout they were foreshadowing the CT Nehemiah elimination via Nehemiah saying, the last time I was on the challenge, I got eliminated by CT, and they referred to Rivals 1, which is just completely washing away All Stars 1, 2, and 3 where Nehemiah was a massive character on those 3 seasons. If he did not appear on those 3 seasons, he would not be on season 40 because he
Yep.
made such a name for himself. He's been wallpaper up until this episode, but it was driving me nuts that they kept referring to that, especially when like Nehemiah wasn't the reason they lost that elimination. Evan fucking threw it, but they can't mention Evan at all.
Who
So
wasn't
just-
even in the frame. Like,
Yeah,
they showed Adam with CT, but they didn't even, yeah. I kind of understand why you wouldn't discuss it because he didn't win All Stars, I guess.
yeah.
So like, but yeah, I was also like, no, you've done this, and this.
I think Nehemiah is like the male face of All Stars based on like what he's done on those seasons. Like he's been a big character in all 3.
Mhm.
I also think he threw in John A because he's so close with Naya, and then Naya and Avery, so he's probably like good with them. And going after Tori would be an aggressive move because it would anger a lot of people.
And she was just target before, yeah.
Yeah. He then nominates Jenny, and Jenny's upset, and I was confused by this a little bit. But then I remembered that Jenny was the person who nominated him last week, so
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yep.
Congrats to Michele though, because Michelle's still never been nominated. I believe the only person in this game who hasn't been up for elimination in any capacity.
For the men.
For the men, Brad takes the nomination just because he's the only guy who hasn't been so far. When it came down to Era 2, Tina says, I've been friends with Derek. I've been friends with Ryan for a long time. Bananas, you're going up.
And I think Bananas is now just realizing that every time Laurel goes in, he's going in too.
And I'm sorry, if you're Era 2, my first thought is let's throw the mission. Sorry.
Such a tough thing though, too, because like
you want to win the daily, but you
Like-
don't want these people to beat you in the end.
No, but it's like you want Laurel gone, but if Bananas is gone, the male side of your team is just so. I'm sorry, Derek and Ryan, but like it's not the strongest.
Yeah.
You kind of do need Bananas.
But they're also thinking, how long are we staying in these teams for?
Yeah.
Especially with Era 1 down to 5 people. I mean, you got to think it's got to be over pretty soon. Era 3 comes up, Corey takes on the nomination, and then Era 4, Josh finally steps up. Our lineup so then is Brad, Bananas, Corey, and Josh. This has been the weakest elimination lineup we've ever had in this in this season, and yet those are still really good competitors. And I mean, 2 legends and one of the greatest to never win.
Oh, I thought you meant Josh. I was like, wait a second, Corey. Okay, I had to like think that through for a second. Yeah, I mean, and even if Josh were to go home next week, like that's a big loss entertainment wise, at least to like someone who propels drama and like is in the middle of like what we see on our screen.
He's dominating in our fantasy league. He's putting up points. And then and then on the women's side, we're getting a variation of Rachel, Laurel, Jenny, and John A. So you got 3 2-time champions and Jenny.
Let's go, Era 3, pull out the dub.
Yeah,
That's what I'm rooting for.
I want to see Laurel versus Jenny.
I want to see Laurel versus Rachel.
I want to see Laurel shit her pants.
We also get the karma points back this episode.
I think they saw fan complaints about where the fuck did they go.
I think it was, especially because of the Laurel stuff this episode, they made sure to make it a reminder of like, this is a thing that will affect the game at some point.
Yeah. I was a little bit shocked to see Emily give Cara just 3 and she said, because you play a role in this, which again, could very well mean that we are not privy to everything that's happened. I want to make that very clear, especially before we close out this podcast. Like, we're going off of edit and what we've seen people say on social media and or at events, okay? It was very weird from Emily. Like,
I also think this is coming from a person who had shots fired directly at her, and she did nothing about it. So, like, her standard for like getting yourself involved in these scenarios might just be like talking to other people, because she like wouldn't even stand up for herself.
Yeah.
This elimination happened, and when her nails couldn't come in, the confessional isn't even her mad. It's just she's just laughing at the whole situation. I think there's part of her who is ready to lose. I think not like wanting to lose, but like it's been a lot to carry on the show for her to have like this legacy of someone who's never been beaten before as one of the best, and now like I do feel like maybe there's a little bit less stress on her.
Yeah.
I think the social part and the drama really weighed on her too. I mean, like leading group meditations, and she looked like physically uncomfortable throughout so much of this. I think it's just so far from the life that she lives now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was probably so pissed to find out Casey and Nani are still engaged. Like,
Right. Yeah.
folks,
Scenes from next week.
scenes for next week.
We see Cara packing a bag. We hear Laurel yell, "Cry for your mama."
Or call your mom or something.
Call your mom, yeah. I mean, that's what stood out most. But there's other things there are other things that were in that. Are we just so blinded by Cara and Laurel right now?
Derek maybe breaking his leg.
Derek maybe broke his leg. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to be forced to move out of the team phase of this unless it's like, what's that, Survivor season?
With Stephanie and Bobby John. Guatemala.
No, they ended up winning Yule's season. That their tribe got decimated and they were down to like 4 people, but then they just started.
Malcolm and Denise, the mat thing.
No, Parvati's first season.
Yeah. Micronesia? No, I don't know. I'm fucking. There's some Survivor fan. Cook Islands.
Cook Islands. Thank you.
Is that the one that
didn't address that? People probably aren't going to watch this episode of the challenge because Survivor debuts on Wednesday from 8 to 10.
That's why they waited for this episode to happen. That's why they're trying to hide the Laurel Cara fight, because Survivor's happening. That's why they had the VMAs this year.
They should have aired it because
that's why they had the VMAs this year. In all seriousness, before we get off, this whole podcast episode freaks me out. Like, I don't want like anything that we say to be misconstrued. We are just working off of what we've seen and been told. I do feel like there's legitimacy to it. Please understand we're commenting on a show in front of us. We don't know these people in real life. In some instances, we've met them and have to talk with them and don't like what we've seen. But please give us grace too. Thanks.
Cosign. Subscribe to us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple. Follow us on Twitter. We appreciate you listening. We'll come back with more information about Wes's wedding from 5 years ago next week. And if you want to talk about the Derek Horacio elimination in our comments, still go for it.
Allan does interview sometimes. You could go watch those.
yeah. I was hoping to interview Emily Scrum this week. It's not happening, but I was going to open by asking when her and Brad's wedding is going to be.
Hey, congrats to Kellyanne, though. She got married. Okay.
Oh, congrats to Kellyanne. Yeah.
Love
Fan
that.
of the podcast. Not really, but I how many podcasts can Kellyanne's ever listened to in her life?
And none that are challenge related.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like talking like just any like I would say 8 episodes total.
I could see her being like into some meditation type podcasts, you know?
Yeah, like this one.
It's late. We gotta.
In the words of Zoe, bye now.